Hi there, my name is Aiden Harger, and I'm going to be reading my personal memoir, The Weight of a Line. I have been doing art for as long as I can remember. My father has a framed painting of mine constructed out of oil pastels and watercolor from the second grade. The practice is one of the few consistencies of my life so far. Pulling my child-themed sketchbooks from the shelf and tediously referencing my How to Draw Comics book while my mother announced to the boys at the house that dinner was ready. Carefully ripping out the pages of my sketchbook after erasing one of the many errors in my drawing one too many times. Sketching was always so difficult, though. Most figures besides those that belonged to the Disney franchise were out of the picture for me. Getting to turn my sketchbook around to see my classmates' eyes widen out my drawings was a sweet victory. Taking commissions of candy for hand-drawn name tags to be displayed in class was also a specialty of mine. Now, I take commissions for real money. When someone asks me for a quote, I have to account for the cost of materials, the estimated amount of time the work will take to complete, and the scale of the work itself. The process of painting commissions is of plastic and automated nature. My focus shifts from trying to achieve a personal truth to trying to satisfy the requests of a person giving me money. To ensure that the colors are not too bold, the figures are not too provocative, and the content is not too inappropriate. Making sure it looks pretty hung up in the hallway that leads to the guest bedroom and the empty bathroom. I often have to find creative ways to explain to mothers that the combination of red, green, and yellow on a family portrait may not come out in the means they imagined it. My hair becomes ruffled from all of the scratching I do, wondering if the people who want me to paint for them have seen my paintings at all. Such a dramatic shift, though. Why did my relationship with painting and drawing consist of the many years before my playful and then suddenly pessimistic disposition to the art form? I want to explore the critical moments within my life that have led to the advances in my understanding of art as well as aesthetic accomplishments. The moments that prompted me to view art I once claimed was bland and untruthful as conduits capable of relaying messages that no other medium could provide the means for. Forwardly, I wanted to dissect my evolution of style, use of material, and act of drawing and painting, and the process of introspection through my practice. We begin at Meyerland Middle School for the Performing and Visual Arts, formerly named Johnston Middle School, and it was my home from 6th to the 8th grade. There, I would take art classes and play violin in the orchestra. The school was old, the tiles on the floor had been chipped, and the exterior was dilapidated because of how long ago the school was built. Meyerland was large. Many classes had to be taken in temporary classrooms or T-buildings, as we called them because of the surplus of children. I didn't grow up in Meyerland, though. I grew up nearly 30 minutes north in an area named Briar Grove. I went to the local elementary, where I would color those fancy name tags for classmates and play soccer on the blacktop. I was expected to go to a private school, or a feeder school in my zone like my brother did, but Meyerland had the best art program, and I made it in. Nobody in my family has ever been artistic. My second cousin would draw in his free time, but that was it, and I recall my father saying that there has never been an artistically inclined Herger besides me. So I was born with talent, and I started to realize that around the beginning of my middle school career. My class time in art was filled with comparisons of my work to my peers and repetitions of the basics of drawing. Cross-hatching, hatching, stippling, shading, value, the whole works. My hands grew sore, covered in graphite, pressed against the hard, weathered wooden drawing desks arranged in symmetry within the room. My teacher, who never seemed to be great at art, paced around the classroom, reminding us to apply adequate pressure when approaching a value scale. Impressionism was valued at the middle school level, or I could say imitation. Kids never won awards for having developed an artist statement and a unique concept driving their body of work. Kids won awards for being technically good, for being talented, and for being able to make their paper look as similar to what they were staring at as possible. This was received by me, and it guided me in my practice for years. The evolution, although, was shallow up until very recently. The transitions I made were fueled solely by trends or the discovery of a new aesthetic. I can accredit my desire to be a good artist as a young teenager to popularity almost completely. No artist made my eyes widen with inspiration, and in fact, art museums bored me. Materialism drove my passion as well. I would often fantasize about using the newest alcohol-based markers or the sharpest ink pens for my new drawings. Propelled by the idea of being a great artist, I feel like many kids my age, I wouldn't allow myself to learn from my mistakes. To reference what I commented on in the previous paragraph, my work needed to be perfect, but it was completely surface level. Retrospectively, my drawings were no form of communication, but more closely aligned to presentations dependent on praise. It wasn't until high school that I asked myself what I wanted to create. As the end of my time at Meyerland rolled around, I was cloaked by the pressures of being admitted to my future high school. Either Kinder HSPVA for the Performing and Visual Arts or St. Thomas Catholic, a private school. At this time, I was a full-fledged athlete, a driven soccer player paying fees at a local football club in Houston, hoping to go to college. My heart wasn't in the equation given the audition process for HSPVA. I had finished the 6 prerequisite life drawings required for the audition process only because I had been grounded over Thanksgiving break. I would mainly audition because I didn't want my parents paying all that money for private education. Despite my lethargic attitude towards performing arts high school, it is the path I chose after being accepted. Being in high school and creating art brought about lots of change, a progressive one looking at my growth and experience as a whole. I can thank my teachers and classmates for a sense of competition, for the implementation of discussion-based critiques held to review the art myself and my peers made, and for slowly incorporating a sense of independence into being an artist. Both conceptually and physically, time had to be managed by me, and I was in charge of generating purpose behind my creations, architecting a cohesive narrative and body of work, ultimately finishing my time with the school by way of my art show. I was exposed to many different art forms. I spent semesters in classes for screen printing, welding, photography, textiles, and sculpture, to name a few. It wasn't always so free-form, though. My underclassmen years were crash courses designed to take everything I already knew about visual arts and to throw it to the wind. I had to start over, and I felt constrained in my practice often. This led to a resentment that I would kindle until my late high school career. I felt forced to create a narrative and bound to transcribe all the art I made through the lens of it. Preceding my senior year at HSPVA, I suffered a large loss in my life. A relationship that I had devoted my time, effort, and identity to for over a year was ending, and I fell ungracefully into the net of my sketchbooks and my paintings. What felt like a hobby for so much of my life soon became as integral to my survival as water and shelter. I wasn't making it for people to stare at. It was an obscure form of grieving. Nonsensical drawings overlapped by iconography and statements personal to my past. I carried a sketchbook in my back pocket religiously. My drawings were surrounded by anecdotes and messages that I felt other people needed to hear. The reality is that the art I was producing was poor, emotional, and unbridled. Three small sketchbooks tattooed with a leather patina serve as a time capsule, a chronology of 2 years, now flipped through in a matter of minutes when revisited, subsequently tracing and referencing every day that had passed since the relationship began and documenting every day since it had ended. As much as I'd like to finish the memoir, I have close to 6 pages left, and I'm already over my time limit. So, thank you for everything, and goodbye.